Welcome to the ETF's Learning Connects live series. This month, November, is Global Careers Month. It is a partnership, an international partnership of stakeholders who have come together to celebrate and raise awareness of the importance of career guidance for learners, for businesses, and for wider society. Today, our focus is on career guidance in fragile contexts, and we will focus on the example of Lebanon. We are live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter. According to the research network Arab Barometer, 48% of Lebanese citizens are seeking to leave their homeland for better opportunities abroad. One of the main reasons cited is political instability. So, given this context, why should we talk about career guidance? Can career guidance make a difference for learners in volatile environments? Can career guidance benefit the wider society and business in this context? What can governments and schools do to enhance their career guidance services? And how can teachers and career counsellors update their skills? To answer these questions and many more, I would like to introduce our guests today. We have Houssam El-Hajj, the focal point for the Central Directorate for Vocational Education and Training at the Ministry of Education and Higher Education in Lebanon. Welcome, Houssam. We have Elias, Geagea, Guidance and Employment Officer at the Institut Technique Edde-Jbeil. Welcome, Elias.
Thank you.
And we have Kevin Akiki, former student and beneficiary of career guidance, and currently installation supervisor at James Way Chickmasters Incubators Company. Welcome, Kevin.
Thank you.
And I would like to give a warm welcome to you, our audience. Please let us know where you're from and any comments and questions that you might have. Okay, so let's get started. I'll start with you, Houssam. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us your experience in career guidance and how important do you think it is for Lebanon?
Thank you for the opportunity, and good evening or good afternoon to everyone, depending where you are hearing us from. I'm Houssam El-Hajj. I'm a central focal point in the Directorate General of Vocational Education and Training. I'm a teacher for 11 years now, teaching hospitality management, and career guidance has been a primary focus for the past few years by applying this concept to the Lebanese vocational education, and by pushing forward this needed method of approaching the labor market. And it has been really a privilege touch basing with the concept, implementing it, and training for it. And to answer your question concerning the fragile communities and how important it is to have career guidance, and to start from the context of the percentage, you said that nearly half of the Lebanese people are trying to exit the country, as per the study you presented, to seek better employment opportunity. It's a sad number, but the context or the reason that led to this the figure or the number is the current situation, which has been deteriorating for the past few years. We had a total economic collapse, the currency devaluation, the economic instability. Now we are without a president at the time being. So all of these, and to add many more, not to mention them, but all of these elements led to a less stable employment market. The supply and demand began at the point not meeting properly. I'm talking here about the supply, us as educator, and the demand as a labor market. So the need to have a very sustainable methodology to approach the market and to make sure our students are graduating with the needed qualifications to be able to find employment Hence came the guidance and the employment officer, where I met here with my colleague, one of my colleagues, Elias Geagea, who is also filling the point of a career guidance officer. Career guidance is what has been missing in the loop of education. It's the pathway where the student has to be welcomed into the school, and he has to be questioned about his attributes, what he likes, what he dislikes, what he or she like or dislike, where the passion lies, and then directed towards the proper specialty and major. Some students drop off, figuring out later on that they chose the wrong major, they chose the wrong pathway for the career. Hence, the career guidance officer has to make sure that he is directing them at the proper major, as well as the needed one in the labor market, because some jobs now are obsolete, some specialties or majors aren't foreseen in the future. So the journey begins with the first meeting between the teacher, who's the career guidance, as well as the student. Then he walks with him throughout the way. He provides internship and finding proper internship or trainings, and then after they graduate, he makes sure that throughout the year they have the proper soft skills to find jobs, to apply for jobs, and to go to the interview prepared, as well as finding a suitable opening or an opportunity in the market. Today, we after 2 years of our efforts, which has only began after a newly appointed DG, Dr. Rinaldi, who led this project, which was pending for a quite long time now. So after those past 2 years, we almost have now 50 acting career guidance officer out of 158 schools in Lebanon. Only in 2 years we managed to acquire this number after an extensive training and extensive rehearsals. And
Oh, okay. Well, we have a bit of a problem with the connection, but in any case, thank you very much, Houssam, for this introduction, and also to the career, the mentors, the guidance and employment officers. And we have one of them here today with us, Elias. So I'll pass over to you, Elias, if you'd like to introduce yourself and tell us about your experience on your journey towards being a career guidance counsellor.
Yes. Hello, my name is Elias. I'm a teacher for 10 years now in Edde Technical Institute. I'm the GEO for 2 years now. GEO means Guidance and Employment Officer in the Institute. So, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
So the experience of GEO. Yes.
Go ahead. Why is career guidance important in Lebanon?
In fact, it's very important since our duty is divided into two main sectors. First sector is guidance, and second sector is employment. About first part, which is guidance, our job is to guide the student to choose the right field based on some criteria, as their passion, their academic skills, and of course, the job market needs. Our second job is to find the right the right opportunity to our graduated students. But between those two jobs, we have 3 years with our students to know them closely, to know their attitude, their passion, their skills, and their abilities. So basically, we are the link between students and the job market. The importance about guidance career office, it's not only to find any job, it's to increase our job market network and to improve our knowledge towards these companies. So we have to recognize very well each company to identify its values, its vision, its reputation, and to choose the right candidate to fit into the right position in the right company.
Okay, thank you. And I will, just before I move to Kevin, a former student at the Institute where Elias is working. I will just say hello. We have quite a few people joining us. We have Vasiliki from Greece. We have a participant from Lebanon. I'm sorry, I think it might be Paula. I don't know how to pronounce the name. We have Nino from Georgia. We have Aspasia from North Macedonia. We have Irina from Albania. So welcome to you and thank you for joining us. So moving now to Kevin. Kevin, Elias described to us these precious years where the students, they need guidance, and the career guidance counsellors are linking the world of education with the world of work. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us what has been your experience of career guidance?
Thank you. First of all, I'm Kevin. I'm 22 years old. I have a license in production mechanics. I work now for a international company, Edde-Jbeil. So I want to say, the first thing I did when I had to the university, I went to the GEO office and I met Mr. Geagea, Mr. Elias. Mr. Geagea has given me a lot of guidance, a lot of stuff during all the years, and not just during like the first two months or something, during years, and still now he is like a reference for us. This is what I'm gonna say. And the thing also that when I just work in the bureau, he didn't ask me. He did ask me why you are coming here. This is like the question. Like he hit me hard with that question, really. What else? He didn't like most of the teachers who that gave me guidance. Just they didn't give me instructions. So our bureau, the GEO bureau, did give me instructions to follow, to choose my career. So that's what Mr. Elias did, and I'm very proud of what am I now from the GEO bureau.
Okay, and Kevin, if I can ask you, I mentioned a statistic earlier, how many Lebanese are looking to leave, unfortunately, due to the circumstances. Did you have a question in your mind at the time, whether you should stay, whether you should leave?
Yeah, what's I'm going to say that the bureau like tended to let all the Lebanese students work in their own country, not to leave. He's like the Mr. Geagea was working to let us work in our country, not to leave. So he introduced me to two companies that I have been working in like for the past 2 years. But now my purpose was not to work in my country. That's why I left. But he was trying to let me be in my stay in my country and work in these two companies.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. I mean, the resilience of the Lebanese people, of course, is renowned, and I think I will pass over to Houssam now, because I'm going to ask a question from a ministerial point of view. I mean, the training and the preparation of careers counsellors, it's a big responsibility given the volatile situation. I mean, how do you address this? Unfortunately, we have a problem with the sound, I think, Houssam.
Yeah, thank you for the question. To begin with, the first part is actually selecting and finding the convenient career guidance officer. Normally, it's a teacher, and we need to highlight that any career and guidance officer, guidance and employment officer, works free of charge. He isn't paid extra. He just he's in his full capacity as a teacher. He fills the position of a career guiding officer, which means he has more responsibilities to do. The burden itself of being in charge of a future, of a career of so many students isn't something easy. So the selection procedure quite takes some time. There's a lot of discussion with the school director. There's a lot of discussion with those who are the potential candidates to fill the position of the career guidance officer. So on a ministry level, or if you can say on the directorate level, this is the first challenge of finding the proper individual to fill out this position. Then comes the training phase, because some of the teacher wouldn't actually believe in the importance of the role. Like I would like to emphasize on Mr. Geagea here, who had actually proclaimed the role for himself and really filled the position. Some wouldn't. So another challenge is also presenting itself on making sure that the teacher knows the gratitude or the gravity of the position he's taking there. Moving forward, the actual training for the career guidance officer. Here we were very blessed and lucky to have the support of the ETF, the European Training Foundation, who constantly providing and helping and providing our GEO officers with the needed training in forms of online or physical training. Also, they are shadowed by a local NGO here in Lebanon, it's called IECD, who also helps and take care of that. On top of that, us and the Director General of Vocational Education have open communication lines with any teacher who would like to extend, who needs help, and we always extend the help needed. So it's a big circle, but the players who are involved are very much hands-on. And again, I would like to acknowledge the role of ETF and the IECD in the trainings that are being given to the teachers.
Okay, thank you, Houssam. We have a question that came through in the chat. Mina from Algeria, she's asking about the key performance indicators. If you could share some information about those.
Yes, actually, key performance indicators aren't highlighted in forms of quantitative or qualitative approach. We don't do tracer studies for the students, but ideally the KPIs would be how many students have been enrolled in this program of career guidance and how many were actually hired. So it depends and it varies. Since definitely we're talking here on volatile times, we're talking about a time of crisis. We just came out from a capital that was bumped to the ground. So what we are more of a survival state. We are in a case of actually trying to, as much as possible, provide our students with any jobs available to make sure that we have no more brain drainage, because we've been suffering from brain drainage for a long time now, for extensive time. The KPIs are not yet signified, but I'm sure it's going to be there down the road.
Okay, thank you very much. And of course, you highlighted the threat that there is of brain drain, and also how you're really working at a system level, for wider society for sustainability, resilience of the country. So, before I pass to you, Elias, I'll say hello to some more people who have joined us. Indeed, we have Rachel from Lebanon. Hello, Rachel, welcome. Mina, who just wrote on the chat, from Algeria. And also we have Eliana from Italy. Welcome and thank you for joining us. So moving to you, Elias. We've heard about the important role that you have, and you mentioned earlier to us about the private sector and the importance of engaging with the private sector. And of course, as the situation is now in Lebanon, they themselves are facing huge challenges to remain existent in the face of the difficulties that exist. So how has your experience been of engaging the private sector, and how have you seen them benefit from the career guidance that your institute is offering?
Yes, it was a tough challenge to involve the private sectors in career guidance in school. Since we are working here with an old mentality.
Okay. There's some connection problems.
We lost
Hello?
Elias.
Good. Okay.
ECD, we expand our network in private sector. We created an online platform. Its name is Mehnati. Help our students to find jobs, to help private sector as well to find the right candidate. We made a contact with almost all companies in Lebanon, telling them about the importance of this platform, the importance of vocational teaching, and the benefits for them from hiring a graduated vocational student. And of course, they contact us directly as GEOs in case of any new opportunities. Now, I can say that this old mentality is changing due to many factors. One of them is that the employer knows if he hires a vocational graduated student, he will be able to perform his job very well. Okay, so he has the competence to do his job very well.
Okay, thank you, Elias. We have a question that came through in the chat, and it's from Abdul Nasser Chakra. I don't see where Abdul is from, but he's asking the question, how do you address students' exposure to the international markets for future employment? Now, I think Abdul might be referring to the idea of poaching here. And also, Kevin touched upon it earlier. I mean, many students, they arrive, they're faced with the decision of whether they wish to stay or to go abroad. So how do you deal with that in your institute, Elias? Sorry, Elias, we might have left you there for a moment. Yes, perhaps I'll move to Houssam because I think there's an issue with the connection. Houssam, would you like to take that question? How would you deal with the idea of poaching? I mean, Lebanese entrepreneurial and great workers, so it must be a battle to retain them in Kevin?
Yep.
Perhaps you'd like to come in here. Well, I think you already answered in the sense that you were provided with the opportunity to stay, so and rebuild. And Elias has mentioned how you're working to rebuild the country. So I think this is an ongoing concern of any society that's facing difficulty, certainly also in the European Union, in member states, to retain their young people when perhaps more attractive offers may be coming from abroad. I think while we're just having some, perhaps Houssam, would you like to try to speak now, just in case, just to see if the connection returned?
Can you see me?
Yes, now yes.
Okay, concerning this brain drainage, and Mr. Abdul question is a very spot on question. Yes, the Lebanese are targeted, systematically targeted, our graduates and our students, to be employed outside of Lebanon. It has been in a formal and an informal way. We've been our students are being asked to be brought abroad. Sadly, it's in this time they're being asked for very low income. It's the pay does not justify what's being asked from them. Salaries have dropped down significantly, and I'm sure Kevin has done his research abroad and knows how much. And to give you a perspective, the fresh graduates used to go from $3,000. Now it's barely $1,000 abroad. and I'm talking here the neighboring countries. So we are addressing this to students, we're addressing this to external parties and players. Like, we know the value of our students and of ourselves, if we may say. So we try to make sure we tell them, we really highlight this issue to students, like, don't sell yourself cheap, make sure you find a proper job, make sure you are being fully compensated for what you know and what you do. So it's not a perfect time, but we're trying to tell them that, and at the same time find suitable and replacing jobs here in the country, so that we can attract them to stay here instead of flying abroad.
Okay, thank you for this answer, Houssam. I'll just take a moment now to say hello to some people, and I think we also have some more questions. So we have Radmil Polenakovic from North Macedonia. We have Skola Mihail Shahini, who Skola doesn't say where he or she is from, but does post a question. For who is the school that will search for the private sector, or the private sector will go to the school? For your opinion, which is the best way to collaborate with the school and the labor market? I think I'll address that to you, Elias, in the sense that, I mean, you approach the schools. Do you? How do you find the schools? Are they in your immediate vicinity, or through the networks you mentioned earlier, networks? Can you hear me, Elias? Well, maybe Kevin, can you hear me about your company? I mean, how did you end up working with your company? How did you make this transition from your institute to the company?
My first two jobs was by Mr. Elias, who was the one who introduced me to these two jobs. Mm-hmm. And later on, my current company I was working for, or I am working for, is by LinkedIn. I searched on LinkedIn, and it was good, and they accept me as of my two companies' experience.
Okay, and were the companies in the immediate vicinity of this school, or did you have to go to another part of Lebanon?
No, there was like kind of close, and it was the job was very good, but it's not what I wanted.
Okay.
Yeah.
But in any case, you had 3 job opportunities thanks to the career guidance that you received from your institute. Okay, very good, great, and also you're staying in your country and help rebuild. You must feel proud of that, do you? Okay, so I will move on now and say hello to some more people. So we have another question actually from Mina. So, were there any conducted surveys to collect the data that would eventually clear up the roadmap for such process? If yes, in which way these surveys were conducted? Well, we have a question towards the end about ensuring that we get the feedback of learners within the system. So maybe I will deal with that question later. And I'll move on to a few prepared questions that we have now. I'll go back to you, Houssam. This is perhaps, let's say, quite a provocative question, but do you think that there can actually be too much career guidance?
It's not a provocative. It's a very well put question, and the answer would be actually well put as well. It's yes and it's a no. Focusing too much on career guidance, I don't think it's the proper way forward. It's not the right way to. At the end of the day, we didn't forget we're pedagogy, and so it's about giving education to students, giving them a better future. So focusing on career guidance and forgetting the academic and the technical side is not a smart idea. At the same time, you cannot have enough career guidance. So at the end of the day, it's guidance. It's the way you guide your youth. You make sure that the students are well guided to the vicious world of labor market. Since they are now graduating, ever since they were kids, they were they were told what to do. They know that these are the rules. This is the benchmark. This is the milestone. I need to do my exams. I need to move up to the next year. At the end of the road, there's a big question like, what's next? And this is where guidance falls. So no, there shouldn't be enough career guidance. We can never have enough career guidance. At the same time, yes, there shouldn't be doing the excess of career guidance. We have to find the proper balance in the needed context.
Okay, thank you. And Elias, I hope you can hear me now. I'd like maybe you could share your opinion with us on this. I mean, are there risks from career guidance? Is there a risk of sending some young people in the wrong direction? What do you think?
We are always trying our best to avoid this point, but it happens. Let me explain more. Always my first question to any new student is why you choose this field. For this simple question, I've heard many answers. For example, my parents want me to do this field, or I just need any certificate. In this case, we explain to the student the importance of the right decision and how it will affect his future. If his answer is I like it, or this is my passion, in this case, we encourage him, but I explain to him the importance of this major and the courses in this major, in case maybe he has the passion, but he has not the ability to succeed. Even though, as I mentioned before, we are always trying to avoid this point, but we can't, since we are humans and our passions, our dreams, and even our feelings change with time. And please allow me to add a small note. Unfortunately, in Lebanon, as you mentioned before, we have hyperinflation, we have economic crisis, and these increase the chance of the wrong decision or wrong direction for youth students, because they prefer higher salaries even if in a different major. Yes.
Okay, so the risk for young people and their careers, their life paths is enhanced by, let's say, the turbulence in the environment around them.
Unfortunately.
Okay. And also, for this, there's the enhanced increase of a need for good guidance, good career guidance. Okay, so we have quite a few questions in the chat, and one question which for you, Elias, again. So it's from Rachel from Lebanon, is do you provide sessions on entrepreneurship during these career guidance? Because we know entrepreneurship, startups, it's a big it's a big factor for Lebanese people. No, they're so entrepreneurial. So do you give sessions on this?
We give session to our students in our institute. Not, I don't. If she can explain more the question, maybe, because we give the session to our students, and we took session by training with IECD or ETF.
Okay, I think perhaps also it's the possibility of someone setting up their own business. Is this also something that you consider when giving career guidance? Do you
usually
show
for
this
all
as an option?
I'm an automotive industry. I'm an automotive teacher. So usually I encourage all my students, if they can have their own business, it will be a very good step for the future.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm just going to go back to Houssam here, because we have a question from Radmil from North Macedonia, who is asking about, is there career guidance in primary schools? Of course, our focus here is more on vocational education and training.
Yes,
but
yes. To my knowledge, yes, there is in the primary school. I think the naming is different, but it exists. And again, it's to my knowledge, our expertise in the vocational sector, vocational education and training. Yes, there is in the primary schools, but I don't know if the naming is the same. I don't know if the percentage is for
Yes,
all across.
okay.
But yes, it exists in Lebanon.
Okay, so it's really a lifelong approach that that you've adopted. Okay, thank you. So I will return to Kevin. Kevin, the question I asked earlier, both to Houssam and Elias, about the risks of career guidance. What do you think? Do you think that there are risks? Might it encourage people to leave?
Yeah, I think there are not these big risks, because even though every student is going to ask they're like going to ask many teachers instead of the BEO, but the thing that with the right teacher, with the right guidance, I think you'll be fine, because you have to do your own research, though the bureau, you know what I mean. Okay, that's it. It's not I don't think it's a big risk.
I think what for you are the most important elements of career guidance? When we chatted earlier, I believe you mentioned some elements which you feel are fundamental, like you talked to a number of people to get different perspectives.
Can you repeat? I didn't hear you.
Yes, you had said to me earlier how you talk to, it's important to talk to many people to get different perspectives.
Yeah. That's what that is what I was saying, that when you go to the bureau of guidance, you shouldn't just ask the teacher. You should take many opinions and do your own researches for your major, because if eventually it's this your choice, not the bureau choice. So he's gonna give you many choices, but it's your research and the many opinions that will guide you. That's what I was saying.
Okay, thank you. We have another question in the chat, which I'll address to you, Houssam. It's Abdul Nasser Chakra again.
Yes.
Institutions must not present themselves as employment agencies. There should be a clear separation between the admission and career guidance. How is it dealt with by the Vocational Directorate? Do you have any first thoughts about this, Houssam?
Yes, it's an amazing question. I really thank Mr. Abdullah for the question. It's a very smart question. It's a very nice question. And I totally agree with his statement. We would never be an employment agency. But the thing is, I believe that if you are familiar with the context of Lebanon and the situation here, there's a gap. There's really the necessity to be available to support and give support in career guidance to students. For example, now one of the most applied major in Lebanon are the accounting, comptabilité. And very much it's not needed. We are graduating thousands of students every year, whereas the need is probably in the construction department or maybe in the mechanics thing. So guidance is not necessarily just employment. I mean, the position is called career guidance and employment officer. So the guidance is the bigger part and is the most important part. So what we try to do is to refrain from, being an employment agency. And this is definitely not our target. But we want to do. Allow me to give you a clear example. Last year, one of our top students in Lebanon, her name is Betty, if I'm not mistaken. She applied for accounting, and then she shifted because of the career guidance. The career guidance told her, you don't fit here. It's not the thing that you should be doing, since you are not familiar with the terminology and so and so. So she shifted to another major where she excelled in graphic design, and she came out the first in Lebanon. So this is our role. Our role is to make sure that we are trying as much as possible to provide guidance to the youngsters. They still are very much not thick-skinned in terms of employment and the future, what comes ahead. This is our role as educators and as vocational experts to make sure that we can hedge what the local market is asking for, what the supply is being provided, and what's the demand for which skills and which majors exactly are presenting themselves. So thanks again for the question. I really enjoyed answering it. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a human-centered approach.
Yeah.
Actually, we have a comment from Radmil, who from North Macedonia, who writes in the chat that about the importance of career guidance in primary school, to avoid that all young people then go to gymnasium when there might be better opportunities more suited to them in the vocational education sector.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have again a few more questions. We have a busy chat today, so I have to thank our guests for the great discussion. So actually, Escola Mihal Shahini is from Albania. So he's a teacher, 16 years at the Agricultural High School in Albania. And for 3 years, they've been trying to connect with the private sector. And they've experienced some difficulties with welcoming the students. So they're asking, what would you suggest for us? Where is the problem, at the school or is it the private sector? Elias, what would you suggest to Mr. Shahini?
No, I'm sure the problem is not with the school. I don't know the mentality in Albania.
Yes, Albania, yes.
Albania. I don't know the mentality there. If it is like Lebanon, like old mentality, let's say in Lebanon, because as I told you before, we are trying to change this mentality and we succeed till now. So they should go and visit the private sectors, private companies, and explain about their teaching, their students' ability. So maybe this will help, hopefully.
Okay, thank you. I will return to a point that come up quite frequently in the chat. It was about, we had a question about the key performance indicators and also about if surveys are being undertaken. And so I will ask you, Houssam, really, how we realize that Lebanon is facing incredible difficulties, and it's all the more reason that this is a wonderful example of career guidance in such a context that there are many contexts like this that other contexts can learn from. But what do you do to capture the learner's experience? I mean, for instance, today we have Kevin. You also mentioned another student who did the graphic design. So what are you doing about that?
Well, concerning Kevin and example of Kevin and Betty and so many other students, we don't have a ready tracer studies. It's tracer studies to make sure that you follow the students after they graduate, and you make sure that they are following them on tracing them where they move on the career. I think this is one of the key roles of the Geagea officers, the guidance and employment officers. And since we are not fully equipped on all national level, all of our schools are equipped, so we can't actually trace all of our graduates. But ideally, this is one of the key points that could be done to make sure that to measure yourself. I mean, you're teaching all of those students, you're graduating them, they're having official exams, they're doing all the degrees. So are they working or not? That's the big question. This is the role of the career guidance officer. It's an extensive job to do. The situation, the current situation presenting itself does not really help for them to perform this role fully for so many for so many reasons. But ideally, this is the only way you can actually answer your question. And here, just allow me to reply back to the previous question about connecting with the private sector.
Yes.
I think you are knocking on the wrong door, because you would be amazed how thirsty is the private sector to find qualified. They really want that. And whenever you go in a vocational and technical institute, telling them like, I'm qualified, and I have qualified students at my disposal, and they will be graduating, and you can have them as your employees. from our surprise and our experience, we are finding the private sector really jumping to be a part of this, and we have so many examples, real examples, that tells us how involved the private sector in this approach. Another body we have is the school advisory board, which is also a new approach in the vocational education. So it always shows that the private sector is keen on being on the table and making sure they improve the quality of education that is being given and finding the proper employees they want.
Okay, thank you, Houssam. Again, we have another question from Abdul Nasser Chakra. Houssam, perhaps this continues.
He has amazing
also
questions always.
Yes,
Has
yes.
the Vocational Director considered the apprenticeship program, where institutions integrate programs with the industries and benefit from the industry technology? Yes, we are doing this. Yes,
Okay.
I'm sure if I want to go, it's an extensive answer, but I can give you a small example of a school we have which is specialized for food industry. It's in Geagea area in
Yes.
Elias, and a memorandum of understanding is being prepared between us as a Minister of Education, Higher Education, led by the Directorate of Vocational Education and Training, with the Union of Industry and Food Industry. So
Okay.
yes,
Wonderful.
apprenticeship is being done, internship is being followed. There's so many questions, but again, as I'm been saying, it's not an ideal situation to cross it all over. We are piloting a few programs, and most of the time they are coming back very successful.
Okay, and just as a matter of interest, I mean, do you work with, let's say, the Chamber of Commerce in order to reach out to the private sector, perhaps Elias, locally for your institute? Do you work with any local organizations or representatives of business, or how is it? And perhaps that's not feasible in Lebanon, given the situation.
As I mentioned before, we are working in cooperation with ETF and IECD. They provide us with a list, including almost all companies in Lebanon. And
okay,
we
yes.
contact with them, each company, and we explain the importance of vocational teaching. So we made a contact almost with all the companies, and as Mr. Houssam mentioned before, they are really thirsty to have our graduated students, because they know very well how much they are well, let's
Qualified.
say, well organized and qualified to make the job very well.
Okay, thank you, Elias. And how would you feel about an apprenticeship system in the mechanical sector? I think, is this your sector?
Yes. Usually, always my advice for my students, as Kevin mentioned before, I encourage them to do training, even if it's not paid, to stay always up to date with technologies, because, as you know, automotive is always changing, not like, for example, any other major. So I always help them to find the training location, maybe training workshop, maybe company, to stay always up to date with technology, and to find the right job after graduation.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Elias. And of course, especially the automotive industry with the green and transition is very important now. I just say hello. We have Joseph from Accra in Ghana. Thank you for joining us, Joseph. I mean, we're coming to the end now of our conversation. It's been a great chat and very informative. I think I'd like to close with just a word from each of you. And I'll start with Kevin, maybe. I mean, we have listeners from different countries also facing difficulties, political instability, security issues. And like you, working in ministry, institutions, the private sector, schools. What advice would you give them about career guidance? Just one word, based on your experience, Kevin. What would you say? We can't hear you, Dusa, fortunately. Okay, maybe I'll come back to Kevin. Elias, what would you say? What would be the first thing that you would say to someone in a country that's facing difficult circumstances, but still they want to invest in their young people? They want to rebuild.
Maybe stay positive, believe in yourself, try to put a plan for your career path, and you will succeed.
Okay, thank you, Elias. Thank you. Kevin, can we hear you now?
Yep. Yes. Sorry.
What would you say?
I will tell these guys, so don't be afraid to ask anything. Maybe it's the smallest question. Ask for every detail. They will provide you with every detail, because every detail, every small information will help you to decide which major you want to go in.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Kevin. And finally, Houssam, what would you say to officials working in
I would say
other
to your
countries?
audience, to everyone, and to my colleagues and to myself as well, career guidance is a key in what we are trying to do. But still, it's not. It's a link, and it needs to meet with other efforts that are being done on technical and vocational level, and of course on the educational level. But it's a very important thing. It's something that is needed and it's highly enforced, and we really want to see it more and more. And we thank the European Training Foundation and ISCD and all the stakeholders who have been helping us tremendously in order to achieve and have more examples like Kevin and other colleagues as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to leave it there. It's been a wonderful discussion. You're doing a brilliant job, and good luck with all your
Thank you.
efforts.
Thank you for having us. Goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.